A dying boy's last wish. The horse that changed everything. It was one of those nights where the hospital room felt like it was closing in on us. You know the kind. Too quiet, too sterile, like the air itself was holding its breath. My wife, Jen, was standing by Liam's bed, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of her old flannel shirt, the one she'd worn threadbare from all those years of farm chores. The heart monitor beeped away, steady but faint, like it was counting down something we didn't want to name. I couldn't take it anymore, so I broke the silence, my voice coming out rougher than I meant it to. "Jen, this is nuts. Dangerous even. The hospital's got rules, strict ones. If they catch us, we're toast. Could lose everything, visiting rights, you name it." I stopped talking, though, because I couldn't finish the thought. I looked at Liam, our boy, lying there under that thin blanket, so small he barely made a dent in the mattress. His face was pale, almost glowing under the dim lights, and his eyes, God, those eyes that used to light up every room, were fading. But they still had this tiny spark, this flicker when he talked about Thunder, his horse. That look hit me hard, right in the chest. I took a deep breath, the kind that shakes you down to your boots, and glanced at Jen. "All right," I said, softer this time. "We're doing it." She didn't say anything, just nodded, her lips quivering like she was holding back a flood. And that was it. Right there, in that cold little room, we hatched the craziest plan I'd ever been part of. Night came fast, the way it does in fall when the days start shrinking. I grabbed the keys to my old Chevy pickup, the one with the dented fender from that time I misjudged the barn door, and headed out to the farm. The air was cool, smelled like hay and damp earth, and the stars were out, sharp against the black sky. I pulled up to the stable, my boots crunching on the gravel, and there he was, Thunder. Big, black, and beautiful, with a coat that shone like wet ink when the moonlight hit it. He wasn't just any horse, he was Liam's. Ever since the kid was 6, Thunder had been his shadow, trotting alongside him through the fields, nuzzling him when he'd had a bad day. I swear that horse loved him more than anything, and seeing him standing there, I felt it too. I brushed a hand along his side, feeling the warmth under all that muscle. "Hey, big guy," I muttered. "Tonight's different. Liam needs you bad." I didn't bother with the saddle, just clipped a lead rope to his halter and walked him out. He followed me like he knew something was up, his hooves thumping soft against the dirt. A couple hours later, we were back in town, rolling into the hospital parking lot. I cut the engine, and Thunder hopped down from the trailer, standing tall like he owned the place. We snuck toward the back door, a rusty old service entrance I'd noticed a while back. Inside, Jen was playing her part, chatting up the night nurses with coffee and cookies she'd baked that afternoon. She's got a way with people, always has, keeps them distracted without even trying. Thing is, we weren't totally in the clear. Dr. Harris, Liam's doctor, caught on. He's this wiry guy with gray hair and glasses, been with us through all the rough patches. Jen spilled the beans to him in a panic, and I thought we were done for. But he just looked at her, then at his watch, and said, "If nobody sees us, you've got 10 minutes. That's all I can give you." I couldn't believe it, still can't really. So there we were, me leading Thunder through the hospital like it was the most normal thing in the world. His hooves clopped loud against the linoleum, echoing down those wide hallways with their buzzing lights. I kept waiting for someone to yell, for alarms to go off, but it was quiet, just the hum of machines and the occasional cough from another room. Thunder didn't care. His ears were up, his nose twitching like he could smell Liam through all the antiseptic and steel. When we got to his room, Jen cracked the door open, and I swear time just stopped. Liam was there, propped up on pillows, looking so fragile it hurt to see. Tubes ran from his arms, and his hair was stuck to his forehead with sweat. But when Thunder stepped in, his eyes, those tired, cloudy eyes, lit up. "Thunder," he whispered so soft I almost missed it. The horse walked right over, slow and careful, and lowered his big head. His breath puffed warm against Liam's hand, and the kid reached out, his fingers shaking as they brushed Thunder's muzzle. "Hey, buddy," he said, voice cracking. "You came." Thunder leaned closer, resting his forehead on Liam's shoulder, just standing there like he knew this was it, their moment. Jen and I watched, barely breathing, tears burning in our eyes. Doctor? Harris hung back by the door, arms crossed, pretending he wasn't choked up too. Liam's fingers tangled in Thunder's mane, and he smiled. A real smile, the first I'd seen in weeks. "Don't forget me, okay?" he whispered. "Promise me, Thunder." The horse didn't move, just stayed there, eyes locked on Liam's like he was making that promise right then and there. The heart monitor kept beeping, steady as ever, but something was different. Liam wasn't scared anymore. I could see it, he wasn't afraid. We stayed like that for a while, soaking it in. Jen started talking, her voice shaky but warm, about how Thunder used to gallop over when Liam napped in the pasture, nudging him awake like a big, goofy alarm clock. I laughed a little, remembering the time he snatched an apple from Liam's lunchbox and took off like a bandit. It was good, those stories, that laughter, but it couldn't last. Dr. Harris cleared his throat and said, "Time's up. We gotta go." Liam's smile faltered, but he nodded, brave as anything. "Thanks, Thunder," he said, tears spilling over. "Love you." I tugged the rope, and Thunder followed, but at the door he stopped. He turned back, looking at Liam one more time, and I swear those two shared something. A goodbye, a promise, I don't know. Then he was gone, hooves fading down the hall. The next morning, Liam didn't wake up. The room went quiet for good, and Jen and I just sat there, holding each other, feeling everything and nothing all at once. Back at the farm, Thunder waited. Days turned into weeks, then months, and he'd stand out in the paddock, staring off at nothing. One morning, though, God, I'll never forget it, he froze. His head shot up, ears twitching, and he just stared across the field. Then he bolted, running faster than I'd ever seen, hooves pounding like a storm rolling in. Jen dropped her coffee on the porch, and I ran out beside her, squinting into the distance. "What's he after?" I said, but we didn't have an answer. Deep down, though, we knew, or we hoped. Maybe Thunder felt Liam out there, free and wild, calling him for one last ride. He slowed down eventually, breathing hard, and came back to the barn calm, like he'd found some kind of peace. After that, Thunder changed. Kids from town started showing up, lonely ones, sad ones, drawn by the story that spread like wildfire. Whenever they came, Thunder would wander over, dip his head, and nuzzle their hands, standing there patient and steady. It was like he was giving them something, a piece of Liam, maybe, or just a little comfort when they needed it most. Jen and I watched it happen, and it eased the ache just a bit. People started calling him a legend, but to us, he was family. This whole thing, it's not just about a horse sneaking into a hospital, though that's wild enough. It's about Liam and Thunder, and a kind of love that didn't care about rules or time or even death. Thunder wasn't just a horse to him. He was his strength, his buddy, his everything. And I think, somehow, that never really ended. Sometimes I'll catch Thunder looking out at the fields, and I wonder if he still feels Liam out there, waiting. Maybe he does. Maybe that's what keeps him going.